From Thom Hartmann's Daily Take Substack. Trump's shutdown, extortion, lies, bribes, and a war on democracy. Dark money, foreign payoffs, and dangerous lies are pushing what's left of our government to the edge. Published September 25th, 2025. The following is a song inspired by this article.
Chains on the Capitol, storm clouds in the sky, selling out the people with another crooked lie. A bribe in the shadows, a deal in the dark. The nation's on the line while they're lighting the spark. It's a shutdown scam, pay-to-play plan, lies on repeat from a desperate man. While the rich get richer, the people get slammed. Welcome America to the shutdown scam. They cry about borders, they shout about blame, but it's all smoke and mirrors in a billionaire's game. Healthcare's a ransom, truth's under attack. Democracy's bleeding while they're watching their stacks. It's a shutdown scam, a pay-to-play plan, lies on repeat from a desperate man. While the rich get richer, the people get slammed. Welcome America to the shutdown scam. Of doubt, it's the people, the workers, the families torn, while the bribes keep flowing and the empire's worn. It's the shutdown scam. We all understand corruption and chaos across the land, but the truth keeps rising. We're taking a stand to end the shutdown scam, hand in hand.
If his lips move, he's lying, or trying to solicit a bribe, or slandering Democrats, or today, taking hostages. Most recently, he started lying about what congressional Democrats are demanding in exchange for giving the GOP the votes they need in the Senate to keep the government open past October 1st. And now, just this morning, they've announced that they're taking hostages. Federal employees will be fired rather than temporarily furloughed if there is a government shutdown. But I'll get to that in a moment. It isn't where he started lying, bribe-getting, and slandering Democrats this week. That was when the entire world watched, aghast, as Trump fulfilled his commitment to the fossil fuel industry and repeatedly lied before the assembled United Nations about fossil fuels, renewable energy, and climate change. Back in April of last year, he had addressed a private group of fossil fuel executives and billionaires and said that he was offering them a, quote, deal, end quote. If they'd give his campaign massive contributions, he'd do pretty much whatever they wanted. The Hill has documented almost $140 million in bribes, contributions, that followed the speech, and there's likely far, far more in dark money contributions that we'll never know about. Thus, an embarrassed America had to watch as the entire world was treated to the President of the United States repeatedly lying in exchange for over $100 million. After all, his lips were moving, as the Emeritus bet recently when they put $2 billion into a little cryptocurrency company that Trump family and Steve Witkoff family had started. And apparently in exchange, Trump authorized the transfer of about 500,000 top tech chips to the UAE that had been blocked by national security concerns. Generally, that's called a, quote, bribe, end quote. Although without the FBI doing an investigation, we won't know for sure. At the very least, it's a conflict of interest. Ryan Cummings at the Stanford Institute of Economic Policy said, quote, if this is true, this is the largest public corruption scandal in the history of the United States, and it's not even close, end quote. As our Constitution says, quote, the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, on the verge of a government shutdown, Trump has rolled out one of the most audacious lies of the past the week. On his Nazi-infested failing social media site, he wrote, quote, after reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive. They are threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, a monumental cost, force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors, have dead people on the Medicare rolls, allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits, try to force our country to again open our borders to criminals and to the world, to allow men to play in women's sports, and especially create transgender operations for everybody, end quote. Let's examine that. Quote, over $1 trillion in new spending, end quote, is extraordinarily misleading. Even Republicans claim that it would cost over 10 years to continue the ACA subsidies so people's insurance costs don't explode at the start of the first year. And don't forget, the Republicans cut that $1 trillion in ACA and Medicare spending so they could give a $3.5 trillion tax break to Trump and his billionaire friends. Quote, to continue free health care for illegal aliens, end quote, is to give up to the states, not the feds, as they control how their Medicaid dollars are dispersed. Most blue states make their programs available to all legal immigrants, and some extend that to undocumented people, particularly pregnant women, and most red states don't. The reason is simple. We all share the same space. You don't want the undocumented person standing behind you in the grocery store to have an active case of tuberculosis, for example. Keeping everybody healthy is only common sense. Quote, force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors, end quote, is complete horseshit. The Democratic leader's public position in the shutdown talks is an, quote, ironclad, end quote, extension of ACA premium tax credits and reversing recent Medicaid cuts, full stop. Quote, have dead people on the Medicaid rolls, end quote, is another lie. Democrats' continuing resolution, CR demand, is entirely and 100% about health coverage, affordability, and undoing cuts, not, quote, funding dead people, end quote. Quote, allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits, end quote, is even beyond a lie. It's a slander against both immigrants and Democrats. There is nothing even remotely close to letting anybody, quote, steal, end quote, anything in their continuing resolution demand. Quote, try to force our country to again open our borders to criminals and to the world, end quote, is another libel against Democrats and the Biden administration. No president of either party since the 1920s has tried to, quote, open our borders, end quote, to anybody, particularly criminals. And again, the only firm Democratic demand is to extend the ACA/Obamacare subsidies and undo the cuts to Medicaid. quote, allow men to play in women's sports, end quote, is another lie and an attempt to inflame his queer-hating base. There's no mention of this anywhere in anything any Democrat has said with regard to the continuing resolution, and it's not in their formal proposal. And the official Democratic Party position is that officials with responsibility for every sport should be able to decide if they want to allow trans athletes to compete or not. Would anybody care if the sport was a chess tournament? Ironically, that's the, quote, small government, end quote, position. Quote, especially create transgender operations for everybody, end quote, is so absurd as to be laughable if it wasn't that so many Republicans usually believe things Trump and his lickspittles in the right-wing media sewer put out. On top of all that, the Trump administration announced today that if Democrats won't vote to keep the government open, they will begin mass layoffs of federal employees. This is pure hostage-taking and radically raises the stakes of the Democrats in the Senate. At the moment, the only solid demands Democrats are making in exchange for their vote is to keep the government open or to extend the Obamacare subsidies and eliminate the Medicaid cuts that will phase during the January 27, just after the 2026 midterm elections. That they should, in my opinion, add the release of the Epstein files and the unmasking of ICE to that list. America deserves to know if, in addition to having had a jury already determined that this convicted felon is also a rapist, our president was also involved in the abuse of young girls. And polling shows that Americans are increasingly uncomfortable with unaccountable masked secret police patrolling our streets and violently attacking citizens and protesters. Whatever they do, though, I agree with the comment former Republican, now Democratic Congressman Joe Walsh said on my SiriusXM radio program yesterday, quote, every Democrat in the Senate should spend the next month in the reddest parts of their states doing town halls where Republicans refuse to, leaving the administration to twist in the wind of the bad publicity as the government shuts down and they begin firing federal workers. Or conducting mock hearings about the UAA chips bribery and the Epstein files. What Trump's doing with today's mass firing threat is nothing short of economic terrorism against the American people. For decades, government shutdowns meant temporary furloughs that were painful but reversible. Now, Trump and his cronies are using the threat of mass, permanent firings to gut the very institutions that protect our food, our air, our water, our workers, and our democracy itself. This isn't about budgets. It's about power. It's about dismantling the federal government so only Trump's priorities, ICE, Border Patrol, and his authoritarian machinery are left standing. It's a smash and grab of our constitutional order, a direct assault on Congress's power of the purse, and an act of extortion against the American people. Quote, give us what we want or we'll torch the House, end quote. And here's the bottom line. Democrats must never give in to hostage takers, because if you pay the ransom once, the next demand will be even bigger, the next threat even worse. Authoritarians don't just bend the rules, they burn them down, and the only way to stop them is to refuse to play their game. Courage.